Okay, so hello everyone. Thank you so much for joining this fireside chat. I'm thrilled that you're all here. My name is Susanne. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Citruslabs, and I am joined today by Henry Simonds, who is the general manager of ASYSTEM. And we don't want to bore you with long introductions on who we are, what our companies do. This is where I want to keep this part brief, and then we'll go right into the fireside chat. And a little housekeeping before we start. If you have any questions for Henry or for myself, then please put them in the Q&A part of the Zoom app. And if you can't find it, you can also use the chat function. And we will answer your questions in the last 10 minutes of this event. Before we go into the fireside chat, let me briefly introduce you to Citruslabs, and then Henry will introduce you to ASYSTEM, and we chat, and then we go into the live audience Q&A. All right, so a little bit about Citruslabs. Citruslabs is the fastest growing provider for clinical studies for brands. And our mission is to provide brands with affordable clinical studies to create research-backed product claims that drive business growth. We've been around for about 7.5 years, and brands like ASYSTEM, Hum Nutrition, Supergut, Stay Beauty, Common Air, Prima, or Your Super working with us. And apart from supplements, we also run studies for skincare, cosmetic brands, medical devices, CBD, pet wellness, superfood brands, as well as biotechs. One thing that I think is really exciting is that clinical research is really exploding right now, especially on the brand side. And in 2016, we've only seen around 100 studies registered on clinicaltrials.gov. These studies have been sponsored by brands, and in 2021, it were almost 8,000. And that doesn't even include perception studies, because perception studies are not registered on this website on clinicaltrials.gov. Now, there are various reasons why brands conduct studies. For some, this is part of their brand identity. Others are looking to be taken more seriously by the medical community. And all of them are typically hoping to drive business growth with clinical trials. We surveyed our clients about the impact our studies had on their business, and almost all of them saw an increase in website conversions or ad conversions. They had an easier time to get listed in stores like CVS, Target, Whole Foods, and they were also able to create better marketing content. Now, let me quickly show you a couple of examples on how study results can look like. As today's topic is supplements, I'm using only supplement examples. If you are interested in skincare or devices or biotech, please leave a comment in the Q&A or chat, and I'm happy to send you some over. Now, let's start with ASYSTEM. This is how ASYSTEM is using their research to increase ad conversions while implementing the results from the clinical study into the Instagram ads. Obviously, you're also using it on their website, right? But I thought like ad conversion would be a good example here. All right, next one is Simonds. Their study also involved blood tests, biomarkers to look at hsCRP. Apart from period pain and period discomfort, they've done a really great job with showcasing their study, or their studies actually. They just published their second one as well on their website. Now, next one is Array. This is the bloating supplement, which is why before and after photos were really important for them as well. And then we have Supergut, formerly Munich. Their study was a double-blinded randomized control trial, included blood tests, included stool samples, and questionnaires as well. This was a larger study, almost 200 participants, 3 study arms. So this is what some companies think of, when they think of a clinical study, but obviously this company also had a larger budget. Next one is Your Super. Here we were researching their 5-day detox, And last but not least, this is one example of Hum Nutrition. They've also been doing a really great job on displaying their study results on their website. For them, research is front and center, which is really great to see. Well, that's enough from my side. Henry, it's your turn. Please introduce yourself and introduce the system.
Sure thing. Well, thank you so much for having me. And great to meet everyone. So I'm Henry. I'm the general manager of ASYSTEM. So ASYSTEM creates advanced natural supplements, and our goal is really to make clinically backed products accessible for everyone. So we do that by using, the best-in-class ingredients backed by studies, and we create products that aim to improve everyday elements of your life. So from sleep, stress, pain relief, all the way through to energy, focus, and libido. We also actually have we've created an incubation studio called Citruslabs, and that's come off the back of 5 years or so of building a pretty unique infrastructure for creating highly efficacious products and really innovative packaging. So more and more brands want to create ingestibles, but it is hard to do. There's a big barrier to entry, I think. Traditionally costs a lot and takes a huge amount of time and effort. So we're now creating products for a number of brands from start to finish as well.
That's awesome. So Henry, we've talked before and I told you that I was just in Europe and used the sleep gummy for my jet lag, and you told me that it will work, and in fact, it actually worked great. I slept like a baby that first 2-3 nights. It didn't feel groggy in the morning, and this is clearly a testament to your formulation, to your product. And what do you think do you do differently compared to other brands when it comes to product formulation?
Oh, it's amazing to hear that it has been a savior for when you're traveling, the night of the flight or the few days after. So I'm glad it worked for you. We've got a product development process which we call functional by design. So it merges two key pieces that really differentiate us. So the first is our formulations. So we've got a real commitment across all our products to use at least one clinical ingredient. That's an ingredient that's got human studies done on it to prove out the benefits. The overwhelming majority of products on the market don't have these. They are expensive, they're tough to source, but they deliver results. To help us with this, we've created a scientific advisory board. So it's full of doctors, PhDs, we've got dietitians, we've got Olympic athletes and trainers on there, and they guide us and advise us on what are the cutting edge ingredients and formulations as well. And then when we get into the formulation process, we do multiple rounds of tests with that panel, with that panel of experts. So that includes blood and saliva work. We do consumer surveys as well, and that all is geared towards sort of ensuring the efficacy of the product is there in the short and long term. So that's all done pre-launch. And then thanks to you guys, we're going one step further. So we're carrying out that third-party clinical study on the products to validate the benefits. Again, something very few brands are doing. So that's one part, that's the formulation. And then another piece I think that differentiates us is the design. So if you walk into a GNC or a vitamin shop, the first thing you'll notice, you'll be bombarded by this like deluge of white plastic bottles. Mm-hmm. They all look the same, and they all end up in the same place as well. And that's the back of your cupboard collecting dust, or in landfill or in the ocean, to be honest. So if you want to make good habits easy, and that's what we want to do at ASYSTEM, it's really important you design products that look great and are functional as well. That's like kind of the core basics and fundamentals of behavioral psychology. So interlinked to that as well is ensuring our products have as little impact on the planet as possible. So all our products come in these infinitely recyclable travel tins, you can see here, removing all plastic completely. And then we've got an industry first, which took us a few years to develop, which is a fully compostable refill solution. So the tray, let me show you here, the tray here and the film itself as well is fully compostable, at home compostable. And then not only that, but we've carried out a life cycle assessment on the products, to measure the carbon footprint of the products. And then we've doubled the offset to make it a climate positive product. So the result of that as well, from a design perspective, is, you look at these, hopefully, this is not going to be collecting dust at the back of your cupboard. You put it next to your MacBook, it looks as good as the MacBook Pro. And that means you're just going to use it more often and build a a more daily routine in terms of taking the supplement.
Nice. And you actually you made a good point that very few brands are actually taking the step to run a study. And you mentioned that during like formulation, you have multiple rounds of tests with a panel of experts, you have consumer surveys, you basically already know that your product works, that it's efficacious. And why do you think it made sense for you to actually take it that step further and run a study with a third party like Citruslabs?
Yeah, so I think for us, we've, for a brand like us, we've got a real commitment to science and proven results. So carrying out a clinical study was something we've always wanted to do, wanted to do for a long time. And in all honesty, I think finding the right credible partner was the hardest part. So when we were connected with you and your team, it gave us the confidence to commit. So we're really obsessed with creating products that really work. I think, we do a great job up front of using the right ingredients, but the proof is in the actual product when it's fully made. And so that desire to, for proven results is something we have, and we know our customers have. I think probably most people on the call have been on the receiving end of snake oil products, and it's incredibly frustrating when you invest some time and money into a product and it doesn't work. And I know an increasing number of customers only want to use product that actually work, and that's fantastic. And I think particularly in the supplement space, people really do their research. It's not an impulse purchase like a t-shirt. If you buy a supplement product, most people will spend time researching the ingredients. They'll be looking at reviews and so on. I mean, even reviews now, a lot of them can be manipulated and a bit fake. So, for us, like being able to say a third party showed, for our sleep products, like, 82% of people improved their sleep. Or for our de-stress products, 86% of people felt more calm. These are like really great signifiers for customers as they're looking for products and brands to trust.
Nice. Yeah, you really said something here that people are really, consumers are really educated now. They're really doing their research. And for you as well, like research really is front and center. It's on your website. It's, as I've shown earlier, it's in your ads. And do you think that having these claims on your website and in your ads, does it really help you to grow the business, or is it just like a nice to have?
No, it definitely is helping to grow the business. I think, since we had the study results from released in January this year, and once we received the results, we immediately added a module to our site with the key claims. So, there's the data around 79% of people reduced stress, 82% had a more restful sleep, and so on. And then we linked the full report on the site as well for transparency. We've got a really voracious community who love digging into the details. And so being able to share that with them, the full report, was really valuable. And then to your point on ads and conversion, it's been really intriguing to see, actually. So we've tested the results on paid ads and our landing pages as well. And they've been the best performing message for us. So I think, it kind of boils down to this fact. I think people are really bored of brands saying how great their product is. I think people see through that. So I think it's refreshing to have someone else like Citruslabs validate the products on your behalf, and people trust that a lot more.
And when you came to us, you already knew what you wanted to do with your study, what claims you want. You even told us what the sample size should be. Can you explain basically what study type you've chosen and why you've also chosen to have like a specific sample size.
Yeah. So, I mean, just for context for everyone, so the products we focused on in the study were de-stress and our sleep gummies. The combination of which we call Complete Calm. The main goal for us was understanding how Complete Calm supports healthy sleep habits, reduces stress and anxiety, and as well as lifting mood. So that was the kind of the goals we wanted to see where we sat. Thanks to the key clinical ingredient we used. So we used the ingredient saffron inside as a like an optimized extract of saffron. We were able to use quite strong claims for mood and sleep from launch on our packaging. This ingredient, if anyone wants to check it out, it's really interesting. It's shown in studies to have the same impact as Prozac on anxiety, but without the negative side effects. So it's an amazing natural clinical. Prior to the study, we had the product in market for about 6 months. So we had some great feedback from customers, but it's sleep in particular is a crowded and competitive market. And we wanted our product to shine through, really. I don't think anyone had really done clinical studies on gummies actually in that format before. So carrying out a clinical study was one of the key ways of differentiating us. And then in terms of actually choosing which type of study, so we had an open label, we had an observational single arm clinical trial. Ultimately, this means we were testing our product on people who could really benefit from them. And then single arm trials, Susanne, I know you can talk much more eloquently than me, but they're best utilized when the natural history of the issue, in this case, sleep and stress, when they're well understood. So, and therefore that means the placebo effects are fairly minimal as well. So that was the type of study. In terms of the subjects, I think we got 28 subjects. They were between 24 and 48 years old. And then they were kind of presenting these like mild to moderate sleep issues or anxiety or stressful issues. And then the format was we kind of checked in before, after 2 weeks of using the gummies on a daily basis, and then 4 weeks after that as well. And that was really to show how our products worked over time with consistent use. And then the results, I mean, I've mentioned some of the results, but we're really impressed. We're really happy with the results, and therefore able to like push them out into our ether, really.
So because you said you were really impressed with the results, did you not expect good results?
I know it's quite nerve-wracking, to be honest. I think we were hopeful, and we built up a bit of confidence from the clinical ingredients that we used, through to the testimonials we had from customers, through to the blood and saliva work that we did ourselves to show cortisol level changes. So we were quietly confident, but it's definitely quite nerve-wracking when you're waiting at the end of the study. You see what is the result, and so everything, all the key indicators that we were looking for, they were all over 80% of people had a positive impact. So yeah, we're thrilled.
That's really great. That's really great to hear. And I think what you just mentioned also about saffron side is also something that really distinguishes ASYSTEM, right? Because you're really using these clinical ingredients versus just melatonin. For example.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's every product we have has at least one of these clinicals in. One, that means it gives us a great chance of knowing that the product's going to work. Two, it allows us to put some strong claims on packaging and in marketing materials as well. And it's quite tough, to be honest. There's it's quite difficult to sort through what are the best ingredients out there. They can be quite expensive as well. So we have to find the right balance between creating products that really work and that still are affordable for people as well. Yeah,
that's true. And because you mentioned that you're using not only the clinical ingredients for your marketing materials, but also obviously the study. how did you create your product claims? How do you implement your claims into marketing apart from Instagram?
Yeah, I think, I mean, the starting point, as I think I mentioned, on all our products is, what are the claims with that clinical ingredient? So we start there. So for the de-stress and sleep, for example, with great studies on the Saffron Insight around improving mood, improving sleep quality and duration. So we're able to use those claims. And then now we're actually going through the process of updating our packaging with your stats and the data from the Citruslabs study. And so that those will be used on the packaging. And then for our wholesalers, so we're stocked in places like Nordstrom and Saks and Bergdorf Goodman, Urban Outfitters, Free People, and so on. They loved having the study. And so we're going to start using that and have signage in their stores showing what the results are of those products.
Oh, that's amazing. And at the beginning, you mentioned that, also part of why you now ran a study was that you found us. So why did we give you the confidence to be a good partner to run a study with?
Yeah, I think there's a few things really. So the breadth of knowledge and experience you have, that's definitely the first piece. So you've worked with loads of great brands adjacent to us in the supplement space, and this helped us feel in safe hands. So I think that was the first piece. The economics actually were obviously really important. So you've managed to democratize clinical trials so they are affordable and they're not out of reach for a startup. And that's something they've historically been. I think we had the preconception of, these are going to cost hundreds of grand to do clinical studies, but you've managed to create a process to make them more affordable. So I think that's another one. And then I think your team as well. So you've all got stellar scientific backgrounds, and then above all, you're all lovely people. So that's always important, to work with people you enjoy spending time with. So I think it's a mixture of those three: the sort of breadth of knowledge and experience, the economics, and then the team that you've put in place.
That's very nice. Thank you. And before we go into the Q&A, do you have one last piece of general advice for brands that want to run clinical studies? Yeah,
I guess I think something we've noticed and we've seen, I'm sure most people have on the call as well, is each generation that comes next will demand more evidence for the efficacy of products. And I think that's fantastic. I think it's really good. It forces you to really create products that are unique, not only just the ingredients, but also the formulas that you put together. And it shifts people away from copying others or even doing white labeling. We have the mantra when we set this up of, it's easy to sell a product once. The hard part is selling again and again. And when you do, you have the formula for a really great business. And the easiest way to do that is create a product that actually works, particularly in the supplement space. And then to add on a clinical trial to validate the benefits is just the icing on the cake, I think. So I'd say it's from our side, it's been hugely beneficial. It's definitely worth the investment. And we will be doing plenty more of these over the coming years.
Yeah, excited to test more of your products. All right. So let's move into Q&A, and they're already great questions. So first one is, can you talk about why someone would choose to do a study with a placebo versus without one? Henry, I think you already touched on it, why we didn't include a placebo in your study.
Yeah, I mean, you probably got more knowledge than me in terms of the differences, but from our side, the single arm study that we did, I think it was, they're kind of really well utilized when the history of the issue is well known. So for sleep and stress, they're just well documented. And for us, that massively, in terms of the start, massively reduces the placebo effects of taking the product. So I think that was one piece for us. And I do think, another piece as well, as the complexity of studies increase and placebos are introduced and so on, I think they get a bit more expensive, and they become, a bit tougher for startups to do and to carry out. So I think some of those are the key elements from our side.
Yeah, and just to add to that, so typically, because obviously, Henry, you already had data from your initial efficacy testing, you already had anecdotal data from consumers, but this was in fact your first real clinical study. And typically when you do something for the first time, you're not starting with like 200, 300, 500 people study with like 2-3 study arms. You actually start small because you want to see really the effects first that your product has, because otherwise your investment could tank in case the data isn't there. So this is also how studies are actually done in the FDA space. You first start with a phase 1 study, which is typically a smaller one with like 20 to 50 participants. And then, you build based on also the data you received, you build up to like a bigger study with like 2 arms. And then you run, typically your pivotal study has like at least 3 arms, and it's then the study that gives you your FDA clearance. And also it's honestly, it's a thing of budget, right? If you have a budget of like $500,000, yes, absolutely, you can go for the biggest study with blood tests and everything. But if you have a smaller budget, then the decision is not running a study versus running a smaller study that is single group. And obviously I'm biased, but I think like running some sort of study versus no study at all is will be beneficial.
For sure.
All right, Jody, do you want to jump in and navigate the questions? We got quite a few.
Yes, absolutely. Can you talk a bit about how long?
Oh, I don't think we can. Oh, now you're on. Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Can you talk a bit about how long studies typically take?
That's a good question. And this is a question that really depends on the product. So some studies, they can be, for example, some cosmetic studies, they can be wrapped up in like 2 weeks. And then we have supplement studies that take, 6 months, sometimes 12 months. It depends on the product. It depends on the ingredients of your product. And it depends when your ingredients typically have like peak efficacy. On average for supplements, it would be somewhere between 4 to 12 weeks. But as I mentioned, some studies can take longer.
Yeah, from our side, I think we wanted to show relatively short-term benefits. So 2 weeks and 4 weeks of using the product on a daily basis. So we technically had a 30-day window when people trialing it. And but in terms of when we started the process, in terms of trying to determine what the goals are, what the parameters were, and then actually getting the full report, I think it was about 4 months from start to finish. So pretty quick. Citruslabs already has the audience like built in and the infrastructure there, so it was pretty seamless.
Thank you. Okay, are your trials conducted with academic partners or are they done directly with consumers?
So again, that depends. So we can work, and we have worked in the past with universities, if this is what your goal is and what you want. Most of our sponsors, it's called industry funded. So most of our sponsors, they are not working with universities. Very simple. Then you have another party to engage, you have another party also to pay. And especially when you are looking to get results fairly quickly, it's not a good idea to involve universities because typically they take a long time. Another thing that you can think about if you want somebody from a university involved in your study is to have this person be the principal investigator, the PI of your study. And then you can basically have, a quick study, but with the university PI.
Suzanne, maybe you can talk a bit about qualitative and quantitative outcomes. The question is, are outcomes like quote unquote feels better, meaningful and useful for marketing purposes rather than quantitative outcomes like lost 12 pounds on average?
So that's a great question. And that depends especially also on your product. So for example, with sleep, right? Sleep, we can include sleep trackers, which is quantitative, but it's also a feeling, right? Do you feel well rested? Sometimes my sleep tracker, my Oura Ring says, you slept amazing. But in fact, my feeling is that I was run over by a bus, right? So it always depends on, what your goals are. And typically, even when we include biomarkers, when we include blood tests, we always will have the perception part of the study, simply because that gives you additional data points. And you should definitely not, reject these perception data points, especially when it comes to, for example, I showed you earlier an example of the main period pain. Period pain, you can't really measure. It's a feeling. Even when you go to a hospital, they will ask you, what's your pain, right? What pain do you feel from a scale from 0 to 10? And for some people, it's a 10 and others feel more like a 5, right? So it always depends on your product. It depends on what you want to measure, and depends on the claims you would like to make.
Thank you. Have you had any regulatory issues with claims?
Knock on wood, not yet. Not yet. But also, to be fair, so we only give our clients guidance. We're not attorneys. We do have attorneys we can refer you to, but typically our clients use their own in-house counsel to then publish their claims.
Yeah. Sorry to interrupt. The only thing I'd add on to that is, from a brand perspective, we've got a legal team who reviews all claims that we put on packaging and marketing materials and so on. One thing I would call out is claims can change from ingredient to ingredient, and we've had that with some of our ingredients where the claims change and the things you're allowed to say change slightly. So as long as you are reviewing every time you print packaging and update it, then you're in a good place. But yeah, that would just be one call out I'd have.
That's great.
Easy one. Does Citruslabs perform clinical trials with animals or humans alone?
So it depends on the product. So we typically perform clinical studies on humans, but if you have a supplement for pets, for example, dog anxiety supplement, then the study participants would be the dogs, which is always a lot of fun, but we don't perform like these animal testing. It would be a product specifically for a dog or for cats.
I always thought that working alongside a university improved credibility, but it sounds like you don't suggest this approach.
Well, it can improve credibility, but again, the goal that if this is a part of the goal that you have, then absolutely go for it. But most brands, I think they really are looking to get claims fairly quick, fairly cost efficient. And then, this is not what you will get from a university. So it absolutely depends on what your goals are. And if you think that university is better suited to help you with your research versus an industry partner like Citruslabs.
How are the studies controlled? Are the subjects monitored the whole time?
That's a great question. And maybe Jody, you can talk about this as well.
Yeah, I'd love to. So we take a lot of pride in our participants. We do a lot of education prior to bringing folks, prior to enrolling folks. And once they've been enrolled, they've been educated about the study, educated about what it means to be in clinical research. And yes, they're monitored the whole time. We have a study team that calls, texts, emails folks, and we are engaged with them. We have checkpoints to see how they're feeling about the study. And then, of course, there are surveys throughout the timeline on this during studies as well.
Great.
Suzanne, do you feel consumers are sophisticated enough to really understand claims, understand placebo versus test, et cetera? And this kind of ties into the education piece of it.
Henry, what do you think?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. I think we kind of touched on it a little bit. I think supplement consumers are very knowledgeable, I think, and they look for information. I mentioned before, like, it's not a t-shirt, it's not an impulse buy. You know, if someone might see an ad or a review of a supplement product, they will dig into the details, everything from ingredients, and then they'll do a lot of competitor research and make sure the price is right and look through all the reviews, and not just the reviews on the website, but on, you know, third-party places like Amazon, where it's a bit more legitimate, or places like that. So I would say that people, you know, there's definitely a select group of people who know the difference, and it's increasing, you know, in terms of knowing what a placebo is versus a perception study or something like that. But I think it's a small amount of people, to be honest. I think the education is getting there around, okay, a clinical study is actually unique and interesting, and I think that is the biggest selling point versus the specifics.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that it's the fact that a brand ran a clinical trial, and then the specifics, like, was there placebo involved, how many study participants, doesn't really matter. It's really more about that a brand actually has invested, you know, resources into research.
Last question. Do most of your clients publish the studies?
Depends how you define publish. So obviously, Henry and ASYSTEM, you kind of published
Yeah.
research, right? You put it on your website, and you also link the report on your website.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think this is what most of our clients do. Most of our clients don't publish their reports, though. They only publish, obviously, the claims. Very few publish their reports, and even less than that go, you know, to publish this in journals. Also, partly because most of our clients' goal is to have claims on their website versus actually publish their research.
Yeah.
And we have one more question.
One more. Yep, one more just came in. Regarding numbers and studies, aren't power calculations important?
Power calculations are super important. So this is part of study startup. In study startup, you know, our team typically, you know, does a power calculation to make sure that we get, you know, to significant number based on your study goals, and this is done for every study. But based on, you know, our experience, we can already tell you the average amount that it takes based on your study goals.
Any more questions? Average cost or range of a study?
There's no average cost or range. I'm so sorry. I know this question always sucks, but the answer actually sucks, not the question. The question is a good question. The answer sucks. Because, you know, there's so many nuances to clinical studies. You know, they are, as Henry already touched, they are perception studies, and they are single group studies, and they are placebo control studies. You know, it depends on if you want to involve questionnaires, validated questionnaires, study specific questionnaires, if you want to involve biomarkers like blood tests, digital markers like sleep tracking or heart rate tracking, stuff like that. So unfortunately, there's no general answer to that.
A few more questions came in. Do product claims have to refer back to a cited report in order to validate credibility, or can claims be made without details of the study protocol?
I think this is a question for an attorney. But so Henry, obviously you you put the study report on your website, and you also have like details of the study on your website.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. We have kind of the key summary results. So for us, it was after 30 days, here's a certain percentage of people saw this benefit. And so we've listed probably, I think, 3 for sleep and 3 for de-stress. And then within the same module, we've linked to the full report so people can dig in to where that's from and what the study parameters were. So that's on our site and kind of marketing materials. And then we, the Citruslabs logo is becoming more well known, and it's nice to show that third party kind of validation or certification. So we'll be adding that to our packaging on those products and any future clinical study that we do. And then just, again, it just shows there's like a level of credibility of someone else carrying out a study and reporting on the results.
Yeah, and I think this is the mutual consensus that obviously not publishing the report, but having like, general specifics around the study. For example, this was a clinical study based on 45 participants carried over 12 weeks. So something like that. Yeah.
Which I think on anywhere, certainly for supplements, you'll still need the FDA statement on the packaging for any claims, even if it's done via a clinical study. So that's just worth noting as well.
Yep. All right, and then there's a question for Jody.
How do you
Jody, yeah, how do you recruit study participants? And is there a bias towards people who are interested in supplements?
So I think supplement studies are really popular right now, and we recruit folks. We have marketing partners. We have an extensive database of folks that are interested in clinical research and that want to be part of our studies. And we reach out to them and we recruit based on providing education about the studies. And I wouldn't say there's a bias towards supplements, but it's definitely very popular right now. But we also run studies on devices and on skincare products, which are also hugely popular.
Great. And questions just keep coming in.
What are the next steps to get a quote?
Well, if you send me your email, you can send me an email to Susanne, SUSANNE @citruslabs.com. Then I can send you a request for proposal form, and then you just send that to us, and then we give you a quote. And then there's a question on non-grass products.
Mm-hmm. Are they run through an IRB facilitated by Citruslabs?
Well, we don't own an IRB, but we work with a couple of IRBs that we trust and that we know. So yeah, each clinical study actually has to go through an IRB. Great. And I think that is a wrap. Well, Henry, thank you so much for your time today. It was very insightful. And before we jump off, where can people find you? Where can people contact you?
Oh, thank you so much. Well, yeah, it was an absolute pleasure. So thanks for having me on. So yeah, ASYSTEM, our website is asystem.com. And if anyone has any questions about ASYSTEM, about our products, or even about Citruslabs, our incubation studio for products, just reach me at henry@asystem.com. And then our Instagram's @asystem as well.
Awesome. Great. Then thank you so much, everybody. And I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Bye.